Everybody, wait a minute. I mix what I like, what I like. I mix what I like is exactly where you want and need to be. I mix what I like, organic, vegan, soul food from your immediate diet. Live healthy. Live healthy. I mix what I like, what I like.
We're here on I Mix What I Like. You may check us out on imixwhatilike.org, where you can see all these other shows and what my daddy likes and other cool things.
Yes, welcome everybody to I Mix What I Like live right here on I Mix What I Like. Again, I'm Jared Ball, happy to be your host. Please do like, share, subscribe, support the Patreon if you can. And of course, do the same for Black Liberation Media and all our satellite associated comrades and crew. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But Alex, why is this a surprise? This has been scheduled for a minute. Are you not getting the alerts? Do you not have the bell rung? Yipper, I do not own a Tesla. Chitty Macha, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. As always, peace, 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 street cat love, balancing act. And while we are Brianna Chambers, welcome, welcome, Tara, welcome. And as we are waiting for our guest, I just want to encourage that you, in addition to supporting the platform, see that also today I dropped this quick response to Killer Mike going on Club Shay Shay and having some choice words indirectly about me and some of the work I and others do. So please check that out. That was wild. And please make sure you're oh, and then Saturday night. So some of you asked me about Saturday Night Live. So for starting this Saturday and maybe once a month or so, I'll be doing Saturday Night Live over there on Black Liberation Media. So please check in for that as well. since I can't really do weekdays anymore, given my schedule, do the occasional Saturday Night Live over there on BLM. Just double checking to make sure. So Barrett was had a lot to say today in private chat and on Twitter. So I hope he didn't lose sight of what was going on here. He sent me so much to try to prepare for today that I wasn't even able to keep up. Yeah, the Killer Mike thing is wild, and uh, he's yeah. It does appear that I am living rent free in his head because I mean it's really funny, and then people ask why do you keep saying something or responding? I'm like obviously if I get called out, but then more obviously promote the book. I mean, all I can do is encourage people to actually read the work he's so critical of without demonstrating himself having read it. But yeah, it was wild. And then the to me, it's a confession. Again, what he says on Club Shay Shay is another confession. So um, I hope everything is still all right. I'm not. We had this scheduled for a minute, and then there was so much back and forth over the last 24 hours because Barrett had so many things he wanted us to cover today. Um, but so I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but maybe it's a time zone thing got him confused. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And he did it again. Like it's like the same kind of thing he did on the Breakfast Club. It's really weird. It's really weird. Um but I will say this while waiting on Barrett, I gotta oh man, soon enough we're gonna be doing um gonna be discussing this new book that I've begun reading and I just want to I just want to shout it out and recommend it. I admit again, it was brought to my attention because I'm referenced in it. So the Google alert I have set up for Google Scholar references triggered. But this new book by Marcel Rosa Salas is dope. Total Market American Race Data and Advertising. And what she's doing in here is vicious. So I am honored to have been referenced in it and look forward to talking more about it on this platform once I finish reading and organizing my thoughts about it. But it's fantastic. Um, yeah, I do too. Every time I see him, but it's always honored to be criticized by a Grammy Award winner. You know what I mean? And such a um, high level accomplished rapper and MC. I mean, yeah, and yeah, activist and MC. And it's also that I didn't bring it up in that video that I just did this morning, but it did occur to me. I guess I don't know. I'm somewhat contradicting myself by admitting it here. I left out reference to Joy Reid. I mean, Ebony Reed and Louise Story's book, 15 Cents on the Dollar, because I don't know, I felt the kind of way like I don't want him to turn his ire on them uh if it ever becomes boring to talk about me. But there, he keeps talking about what he thinks I've said about him in my work. Their book does more to expose him and the fraudulence of the claim around the circulating dollar and Black Wall Street and the Greenwood app and Killer Mike's role in all of these discussions than anything I've done. They spent way more time on him than I did in my book. But appreciate you, Jafari. Good to see you, my man. Thank you very much. Peace, Pancho. Maybe I got to rap with you about this at some point because I'm not sure if Barrett's making it today. Um, uh, uh, Before I talk with Latinx students about what's happening with ICE raids here in Chicago. So yeah, I mean, maybe at some point we could build on that as well. Did I join the squad? What squad is that? To talk MOBP? Did I miss it? I don't think so. I'm not sure what you mean, Chitty. But um, no, he's not interested in having a conversation, just continuing to sell his BS. Yes. But you know. So I don't really have another plan. So I don't know how much longer I should wait. And I'm not seeing him respond to these messages anymore. I'm not sure what's going on. But I don't know. I have so much stuff piled up here to get to that I was going to end up saving for the Saturday Night Live, but there might not even be. Maybe we could do some of that here because this. I don't know. If because I don't know if even a few hours on Saturday night would be enough for all of this, but oh, SEALs. No. So sorry. SEAL squad. I got you. No, so initially I got bumped. Something apparently more important came up that she wanted to address last week. So, but I have been rescheduled for later this month. What's the exact date? Wednesday, October 22nd. I will be live with Amanda Seals, I think, to talk about. Initially, they wanted to talk about my buying power book, but we'll see if that stays. So yeah. The ads are a show. So I went back in and tried to curate the ads a little bit more. So but yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some a good Congo speaker. Talk about the Congo Forum. Is Friends of the Congo not acceptable? I really don't know, to be perfectly honest. I would end up going just to some of the regulars in our spaces here around here, but that is a good question, and good luck finding a good speaker for that. Let's see. Yeah, where is that video? I had created a clip. Oh man, there's so many things. But yeah, my apologies, everybody. We were in so much back and forth in the Signal chat that it didn't occur to me that Barrett might not make it or be maybe confused about the time. I hope something has not happened. But anyway, so Saturdays with Renee on Black Liberation Media is going to be another dope show. Brian Quoba's coming back. Geechee's joining us for a more specific conversation around Hubert Henry Harrison's socialism. So definitely be around for that. There's going to be, then I'll be doing Saturday Night Live over on Black Liberation Media Saturday. And if I can find this one thing, I will at least maybe, what is this? Hold on a second. Sorry again about that, everybody. Yeah, Saturday afternoon live. So as I had a little bit of let's see, where's the I'm still trying to find now I'm trying to scramble to so as I had a little bit of fun with the thumbnail, if it's not quite dark outside, it's Saturday night. If is that even let me move the scroll here. Yeah, if you can and then let's move me oh, and then I got the name. Anyway, it says down there if it's not quite dark outside, it's Saturday night with I Mix What I Like. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So yeah, if it's not quite dark out, it's Saturday night. Um, and again, while I'm asking, does having the chat on the screen, how do you all feel about that? Does that make a difference for you? Does it mess anything up for you? And yes, Alex, thank you for checking your own mute. I'm still going to see if I can quickly find this clip that I created to make a point about my own contradictions. Oh, there's just been so many sent. I might have to find it somewhere else or recreate it. But and yo, I don't know, I don't know what happened with Barrett over here. What's going on? I'm not a fan on the chat on the screen thing. All right, there it is. Boom. Manny has spoken. Just checking. Thanks for the feedback. Oh, where? Oh man. And I can't even front, like I can't even begin to try to summarize what Barrett was wanting to talk about. For me, it's very convoluted. There's a lot that he pulls together that I think would require his explanation. I will say that going back and reviewing again his book, yeah, let me do this thing real quick. I do want to I'll at least make this point. And if he does make it here, then this will at least have taken care of the intro. But I do agree with this is from My Glorious Defeats, his memoir. Barrett is an award-winning journalist who has written for Vanity Fair, The Daily Beast, The Guardian, Vice, The Intercept, Skeptic, Al Jazeera, The Huffington Post, and other outlets. In 2016, he won the National Magazine Award in category of columns and commentary. He was released from federal prison in November of 2016 after serving 4 years. He applied for political asylum in 2021 in the United Kingdom, where his case is currently pending. He lives in London. You can sign up for emails here. But in one of the blurbs from John Kiriakou, I agree with this. Funny, infuriating, and brilliant. My Glorious Defeats is a must-read for anybody who cares about how our country really operates. Why so many Americans consider Washington and everything that comes out of it to be a swamp, and what we can do about it. You don't have to like Barrett Brown's politics. I do. But you sure have to respect his guts. He doesn't pull any punches. So I agree with that in terms of maybe not references to our country and all that kind of stuff, but in other words, but in terms of if you are at all interested in how this country really operates, this is another good book to read, and it's well written and fascinating in terms of an exploration, in terms of the involving the overlap of journalism, surveillance, tech, billionaire influence in media. But I'm still yeah. So I'm starting to lose a little optimism that this is going to happen today. I'm not really sure what is. Again, I hope everything is all right, and I'm also trying to find this. And I think I'm gonna have a little bit of trouble doing that. Let's see if I can find it elsewhere. Nope. Up. I think I found it. All right, so this is so maybe it's sort of a precursor for what we can talk more about Saturday, because this is actually something I would like to talk about, and it is a little bit relevant to what Barrett ends up talking about. So I'll play this as a let's see, local video. The moment, and there's this
shows, and I just want to add that it's kind of interesting.
Hold on a second. Let me. So in one of these interviews that I did with SamanthaYoussef, we're talking about Andor, and she makes this brief reference to one of the actors' appearance, I think on Jimmy Fallon or Kimmel or one of these shows. And in the moment, I didn't bring it up, but I did clip this, shared it with a couple people, and have been meaning to talk more about it at some point, because it without meaning to, Samantha called me to reconsider, encouraged me to reconsider my own contradictions. So she's talking about, and we're talking about Andor. She's talking about one of the actors going on one of these TV talk shows, evening talk shows, and involving himself in the media machine, even as he's portraying a character we're meant to see as revolutionary. And it made me think again of my own contradictions and my criticism of others who engage pop culture and media in ways that contradict their politics. So as I've said over the years, back in the day, whether it was Talib Kweli or Common or Mos Def doing Toyota and Coca-Cola commercials or being in commercial films, uh, or Colin Kaepernick, even doing the Nike commercial at the end of his protest efforts, the the corruption of their real life politics or lived politics takes place just by their involvement in that. And because of some other conversations that have been happening off the record again around not quite the same thing, but around how do we show up? How do we want to be radical activists, revolutionary thinkers, organizers, educators, whatever? How what is the impact of how we show up in certain media spaces that aren't maybe pop commercial, cultural, uh, mainstream, but are certainly to the right, more popular, more conservative than we are? And to what extent is it of any value to do that? So I might say, like, I wouldn't go on, Fox News or some overtly right wing thing to debate, but I might go on some platforms that are more popular and perhaps more to the center or right of where I am. And should I do that? Should we do that? And someone that I know took a very principled stance against going on a platform that I do go on. And I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they're wrong, but I'm not entirely sure I'm wrong for going on either. But I'm again not sure. But when I play this, but when this exchange that I'm going to play now happened, it made me rethink that. So let me just
While I
play
was
that now.
looking at that, like that video, the guy that gets obsessed with all the little detail things, on the side, like on your YouTube, it's showing you things on the side. And I saw that there was like I think it's one of your Jimmy someone talk show guys, Kimmel, I think. And there was a talk show where they got the actor that plays Cassian Andor to interview the two of the actors from the Superman film. And again, because we know the audience, so I felt, for me, it felt a little validating to see that, because I'm like, they know the audience that they're targeting. They know, yes, it's in a sci-fi realm, but there have been lots of other films that have come out, or even Fantastic Four, different things. Why these two are they putting them on this talk show together? Because they know that there's a specific audience that these films are overlapping with, right? So even though one is DC Studios and one is Lucasfilm, like Disney kind of thing, or whatever, you think they're separate studios, but they've got all these people kind of, engaging a specific, this is all again because we know the target audience. So
My bad. So that was it. So she wasn't meaning to bring that up, but internally while she was talking there, I was having this this collapse. I was like, wait a minute. When the actor who plays Cassian and Andor goes on Jimmy Fallon to big up Superman, this wildly, militarist, American film, not only was Samantha helping me, be more clear on the politics of a series that I was enjoying and not fully engaging my own criticism of, but it was making me think about this other issue that I was discussing with some comrades in a different, but about when and where do we show up? And if someone who wants to be seen as portraying a radical figure in a series like Andor shows up on mainstream commercial media to support Superman, which should be an obvious reminder of what all these products are. And SamanthaYoussef was exactly right to make that point. To what extent am I or others in the setting that I'm in replicating that same error And I thought I had turned off those whatchamacallits. Why is that still coming on there like that? But uh are we not doing something similar by going into more, again, not Jimmy Fallon or Kimmel per se, but something not as, so I just am not entirely sure where to draw the line. I admit that I've been thinking about that for a minute now, especially after she made that comment and in that context of that discussion, and then also after a friend was saying that they're not going to go on a certain platform that I do go on or would go on or will go on, um, uh, because they don't want their politics diluted in the broader work of that other platform, and they're not wrong. So I just don't know exactly where we should draw the line. So anyway, that was, and yes, Kiriakou is a former CIA agent. I know you put that in quotes, but yeah. Nene, no, I have not seen the new MLK book by Robert F. Smith. I did see that he was writing one, but I have not gotten to it yet. And my goodness. All right, what is Barrett saying here? I think a chat is coming in. And Tafari, slightly unrelated. What are you reading or wanting to read right now? So, as I mentioned, that I am reading. Part of the problem is I'm back and forth between several books, but I am reading that Total Market American Race Data and Advertising by Marcel Rosa Salas. That's quickly becoming one of my new favorite books. And I'm also, because speaking of Samantha Youssef, she and Dr. Burrows and one or two others, Dr. Saswat Padianik, are going to join me for a discussion of both Superman, Fantastic Four, and I got Dr. Burrows and Dr. Padianik to I forced them to agree to talk about 107 Days, the new Kamala Harris book, which I am listening to. And I'm not going to front. I'm enjoying listening to it. They know how to write a book, and she knows how to perform a reading. Now, the contents are political garbage. I mean, it is some spin and nonsense, and again, to me, more of a confession. But it's going to be fun to hate on it with Doctors Burrows and Padianik. All right. Let's see. He lost track of. Okay. Uh, so I think Barrett will be here shortly. Um, what is going on in the chat here? um, Yeah, no, it's not just you. I go back and I got um and now that Renee has me on this listening thing more often, I'm just all over the place. So 107 days, um just finished the Fort Bragg cartel, which we should talk about. At some point, if I'm reading it, we should talk about it. Or I was hoping maybe Jared Ware would do something on it. Maybe he still will. The Invention of the Jewish People. I just finished that too. Man, that was, um, So, but and then there are these other ones that I haven't even really gotten to yet. So I did just finish. You know what I just finished? I just finished the Donut King book. And I'm telling you, again, Sudeep Bhattacharya and I are working on this thing, and eventually, whenever whatever we're doing gets done, I think it's going to be pretty dope because I don't want to spoil it, but what the Donut King does in the book, and then what's done with the Donut King documentary, that then leads to some Black people saying, "Why don't we be like the Cambodians and take care of business and open up businesses like they did with donuts?" It's even more diabolical than when I had just seen the documentary and did the video on that. What they did in the process of all of this is it's way worse than that. Um so like the Donut King, I want to turn that into a phrase that speaks to what's happening here. It's like the Donut King effect on Black capitalism or something like that, because uh so that, and then I've been going back and because of this whole mixed race thing, going back and looking at um multiracial in cinema book, something like that, and then Cedric Robinson's book, or the book about Cedric Robinson that contains all these writings on him, where we talked about the mulatta in film. Um, I'm just looking at what these books I'm actually. There's a couple on the Asian American, Black American comparison that I've picked up for this project we're doing. So yeah, I mean, but then there's this other one, and I know Gerald Horne just dropped one of a similar, but I haven't even. But Slavery and Capitalism: A New Marxist History by David McNally. So that's another one. But yeah, and then also just going back because of my courses, just going back to Alkali Matt's Intro to Black Studies and some other of the introductory Black Studies, stuff like that. Where can we watch the Donut King? I don't know. I honestly had to, you know, revert to some old ways to get it. And the claim is that there's copyright issues, and they do have some Wu-Tang music in it. I don't know if that's the reason, but PBS, you can't even get it through PBS. You can't get it through Canopy anymore, and I'm starting to become suspicious. It's like everything is a side war and op, because especially now that Sudeep and I are on the case, I feel like there's going to be a lot of removal of stuff. So I don't know. Um, I don't have an answer for you on that, unfortunately. Thank you, Pancho. Thank you. I do want to do more. I have there's a series. There's a few people who have been inviting me to talk more about mixed race, this and that, and but as I said in that video, I do want to take it out of the anecdotal and get into some more of the research that I haven't been involved in reviewing for a long time. So there's even a Raylina Joseph book that I've bought years ago that I haven't even gotten to, that updates her work on the multiracial, the millennial mulatto, or what did she do with it? What was that great book she did years ago? But she has another one that came out in 2018 that I bought and didn't even read. So but it centers around, like, these discussions center around this thing of it starts like the discussion I've been invited to, like there's been a few people have emailed me wanting me to and some presented a little bit as a debate, and which I'm not so much interested in, but this whole thing about what is is there more likelihood that those of us who are mixed race will betray the Black Revolution? And one thing that I think keeps happening is that people do conflate what happens when you have, again, an isolated population like a colored community or a specifically defined mixed or mulatto or Creole community, and and what happens, for instance, here in the United States, where you just have so-called mixed race people operating and existing within these various communities. And I think and that would be my point as to why we should resist. And I think why I've always wanted to resist those of us who are mixed, black, specifically black and white, black American and white American here in the United States. That I've wanted to resist this whole thing of let's have an entirely separate mixed or biracial category and community that is distinct from the black community. And if for no other reason politically, I just think that that encourages more disunity among the so-called groups. In the same way, I think it operates. The invitation to become part of a black bourgeoisie encourages a class hostility that has a black capitalist or a black bourgeois relative elite operating against the interests of its own community. So I don't know, but okay, enough of that because our guest is here. So we're going to take a quick break and come back and get to this discussion. He's already been introduced, so we'll be back in a second with Barrett Brown. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Barrett Brown. What's up, Barrett? Welcome back to the show, everybody. Barrett Brown, already introduced. Please, if I didn't put it there, check the link in the show description that will soon be there for access to his work. But welcome back, Barrett. It's good to see you.
Buenos dias.
So I was telling everybody as we were sort of waiting, and I'm happy to have you come back for many more discussions. So I don't want you to feel like we got to squeeze it all in now, but I do have a little bit of a time crunch that we've eaten into a little bit here. So, but that said, I as I was telling everybody, the sort of data dump you dropped on me in the chat last night, I read through it, but I can't pretend to interpret and understand everything, even if I wanted to sort of summarize it for my audience while we were waiting for you. I was like, it wouldn't even make any sense. So let me just invite you to start where you want to start. I know initially you wanted to talk about Dallas, your experiences there, which you've written some about, and
we'll probably have to pick one of the two today because we have a time zone in Mexico that's different than the U.S. We don't have daylight savings time, so I would have been late anyway as usual. So anyway, so here we are. Let's leave Dallas out because Dallas will still be there next time. Let's go to this national stuff involving the intelligence contracting, influencing people, and so forth.
Fair enough.
All right, so it starts. The best way to start it is 2014. The Intercept is to be founded with a $200 million grant from a certain billionaire who must really care about leaking and transparency because he's giving all this money to, and I apologize for the street traffic. This is the quietest place in Mexico. He's giving all this money to Glenn Greenwald, who has just received what's supposed to be the biggest intelligence leak in the history of the U.S. Massive archive for the NSA, a contractor. He's fled to Hong Kong and he's gotten away with the help of WikiLeaks, blah, blah. Greenwald has the files. He's writing at Guardian. He's frustrated, as anyone who writes at the Guardian will be, because it's something else over there. So he can start his own outlet now called The Intercept under First Look, and it will be a legitimate outlet for people who are, in the national security sector. So I just got to Mexico a couple weeks ago after 5 hellish years in the UK. Just to respond to a comment there. I'm Mexican now. So I'm safe from the gringos for a little while. So So this is a great thing. I'm in prison at this point. I hear about this. I'm like, wow, we won. At this point, the transparency movement that a lot of us have been sort of indicted for or whatever, it's mainstream. And Greenwald's in charge. I like him. I trust him. Just like I've trusted a lot of people over the years. And meanwhile, unbeknownst to most of us, I guess all of us, Greenwald is hanging out not just with Omidyar, but with Peter Thiel and Weave, the leader of the Nazi group called what was it? I forgot the name of the Nazi group he leads. It's in the chat there. There's just a lot to keep track of. Anyway, became leader of a Nazi group, has a giant swastika tattoo on his chest. He's been in the New York Times, portrayed as an activist, member of Anonymous. He was not. His only role vis-a-vis Anonymous was to start spreading misinformation about those of us arrested and raided in March 2012. Anyway, you have photos of him and Greenwald. And more recently, we got this exchange in which Weave approaches a young woman named Mercedes Heifer. Now, Mercedes Heifer is one of the PayPal 14. She is one of the young people who, in 2010, late 2010, when PayPal led the economic blockade on WikiLeaks at the behest of their partners in the federal government, these people DDoS, distributed denial of service attack on PayPal that slowed the website down for maybe a minute. No damage. 40 armed raids a few months later by the FBI on 40 U.S. households, 4 raids in the U.K. simultaneously, 14 people charged with 20 years worth of sentences for that protest attack in favor of WikiLeaks. Mercedes Heifer is one of them. Weave reaches out to her in this message, this exchange that we have a copy of now. Now, Mercedes is still, again, off the map, not in hiding, I don't think, but like a lot of people, she's out of there. But anyway, so she got this message out eventually. Weave threatens her on behalf of Omidyar and Thiel, who are in town. He's hanging out with, as shown in photos again of him and Greenwald. He threatens her that if she continues to publicly point to the fact that Omidyar is a national security aligned fellow who is prosecuting the whistleblower community right now, prosecuting young people who simply DDoS the website for WikiLeaks right now, that if she continues to put out statements about that, which she had been doing, her ongoing criminal charges will go very poorly for her. On the other hand, there's a great number of benefits to doing the handshake with the PayPal Mafia, as Weave calls it. Yes, it's Mercedes Heifer, Haeffer, isn't it? She was, she's a bunch of documentaries from back then. She was basically the spokesperson for the PayPal 14. She was the only presentable one of them. So there's a lot, unfortunately, I'm starting to say there's a lot of just, kind of Morlock types that were involved in this. Anyway, I had gotten Mercedes her lawyer 2 years back before I went to prison, named Stanley Cohen. Someone had recommended me to him. So naturally, and Weave's lawyer at the time, while he was threatening Mercedes, was named Tor Ekelund. Now, this confused me much years later when I found these messages, because Tor and Weave both went to work for Thiel. I mean, formally, they were already working for Thiel, but they both went to work for Peter Thiel's Clearview AI surveillance firm. Again, after having supposedly been helping activists and not advocating for the people prosecuting them. As shown in I don't know if I sent you the link to this, but a Vice article in 2014, when my case got big, I became a cause célèbre. It was pretty clear that I wasn't actually going to go 2 decades in prison and instead be something of a bellwether vis-a-vis the national security state. I got a visit from a Vice reporter, drove down this lawyer, Tor Ekelund, to the jail I was at. Now, this wasn't my lawyer, Tor Ekelund. I never met him before. Already had a lawyer. He wasn't there to, provide an amicus brief or assist with my legal team. But he met with me for 2 hours, and that's commemorated in this Vice article. They don't say in the Vice article why it was Tor needed to meet with me. The reason he did, and I wish I could prove this, but unfortunately it was done in a jail meeting cell, is to offer me a lot of money. Weave's name is spelled. I mean, his moniker is WEEV. In response to someone in the comments, it's Andrew Arnheiner. I can never spell his last name. Just look up Weave and you'll find it. You'll find his real name and all that, and his background, and his Nazi group, and his photos of Grinwald, which Dr. Ball has just put up. There he is. He looks like Allen Ginsberg, which is funny. So what we have here, what this shows, and what is further demonstrated by a number of other things that have now become clear, and which unfortunately I can't quite get, across to the white media, is that at every step of the way, the Intercept and everything around it began to exude additional, consistent, interwoven examples of being an intelligence operation, including the fact that many of its first staffers and its first editors were either people we'd already caught, already had message exchanges from, working with the FBI, and with HB Gary, one of the firms that I went down for because they were going after journalists, doing disinformation operations against labor unions. These journalists and editors, mostly at Gawker, who had been working with the FBI and so forth, were the first people that they put in at the Intercept. John Cook, one of the worst offenders. Sam Biddle, another one we have caught. He was working with 3 different FBI assets that we know of from emails, and then wrote an article attacking Anonymous using a testimony which was false. The only journalist in the whole country that I know of that celebrated my sentencing when I was sentenced in, I guess it must have been early 2015. Anyway, a few months later, we're both working for the Intercept. Sam Biddle and me. I didn't know he was, so I'm still in prison. Glenn Greenwald has me call him, and once the column I was writing from prison that was very popular, he said we want that for the Intercept. We'll give you a bunch of money. I said that's great, and also well done, Glenn, on the Snowden thing. I had kind of been worried about him because there's a lot of weird stuff after 2011 when he was originally targeted by this Palantir HB Gary Team Themis thing that was in the news, and Alex Karp, president of Palantir, it was announced he was going to call and apologize to Thiel, and then after that Thiel just stopped talking about it. After that Greenwald just stopped talking about this thing, this massive conspiracy that had been in the New York Times and the Congress had discussed, this conspiracy to go after WikiLeaks, go after certain journalists, go after labor union leaders, and which named Greenwald in particular as someone who was a major bulwark of defense of WikiLeaks and had to be turned, had to be forced to choose between profession and cause and livelihood. So the things keep coming. And as you recall, Dr. Ball, a couple of years ago, I came on here and talked about a group of the sort of FBI-aligned ex-military counterintelligence influence network that had been masquerading as activists and so forth. We talked about that. They could try to get you fired from Morgan State. 2 of them, the assistant editor of Distributed Denial of Secrets, is the name of this group, Lorax Horn, sent an email. And then sent another email because the first email, by her own admission, had a bunch of very incorrect facts. I think she realized that the emails were now being sent to us and that we could use those. And another person, Elizabeth Shaw, who is an accelerationist intelligence contractor, also sent you an email. The whole white girl in distress thing didn't quite work at Morgan State, which why mutual enemies and so forth that I just love. And anyway, so those people in the latest update, we now have them tied very closely to the the security head, the lead at the Intercept, who also helped found the Freedom of the Press Foundation at the very beginning. We now have a great deal more about the fact that he was on the board of DDoS. He was on the board of this group, Distributed Denial of Secrets. And of course, the other co-founder we didn't know about, was revealed a year ago in 404 Media to be a convicted child sexual abuse material distributor, which is common in the intelligence circles. Now, I'm going to just stop there for a bit because that's a lot. So,
yeah, I appreciate that. So given what you just said there at the end, let me see if I could sort of summarize and sort of get a kind of a headline here. So somebody who you're saying works with the editorial staff at The Intercept is also connected to this DDoS group that
yes,
you are saying presents itself as a progressive activist community, but is really billionaire intelligence associated or parallel formation of some kind.
Yes, and they also ran the Daily Stormer is the name of Weave's Nazi group, and they ran his servers for a number of years. One of them worked for the Israeli intelligence firm Wikistrat. This is something they even had to acknowledge eventually in the New York Magazine profile that came out about me, which they tried to influence in a number of ways. Worked for extended periods with the CIA and U.S. Army counterintelligence. Again, at some point they had to start hiding this, but previously this person had been open about it. His name is Michael Best. I'll send you his picture. The other members appear in my case, appear in the files from my bond hearing way back. They appear. They were some of the people who were threatening and pursuing Kevin Gallagher, the head of my legal defense fund, who died a couple of years ago. Neil Rauhauser. Aubrey Cottle, another guy who, by essentially the Atlantic article where they were trying to promote him as this activist, the natural new leader of Black Lives Matter. Longtime Weave associate, member of Nazi groups, CSIS, Canadian police asset, so on. The group is composed entirely of assets. The Intercept was founded by threatening whistleblowers, threatening leakers, threatening the most vulnerable people who had been facing the most prison time at that point for supporting the transparency movement. Greenwald is in some way compromised and has been since at least March 2011. He's gradually, more recently, some of these people have more gradually admitted their ties to Thiel. Peter Thiel now works for Rumble. Peter Thiel's, Rumbly, video platform that's really big with the Nazis. Again, all these lawyers they threw in, who sort of took over the lives of some of the defendants, including Jeremy Hammond. They're working for Thiel, and they are distributing their own secrets. Now, the group itself, as of the last few months, no longer exists. They've individually been telling people that, this whole thing is a shit show. In their words, they won't say what happened. Nothing happened. What they're doing is they're disassociating from each other so that later on they can reform. This happens a lot. Sort of getting involved in other things, in bed with journalists, the journalists not knowing who they are, et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of things we have them doing based on research of this. So that's the point, is that a number of reporters who promoted this weird thing that this Aubrey Cottle Nazi guy was actually the founder of Anonymous, but had just come out of hiding, and we're going to bring back activism, and everyone and all the blacks should go to his website and sign up. The reporters that did that, Joseph Min at the Washington Post, these are guys that go way back in this stuff too. So what I'm saying is that we just have the amount of stuff we now have, and the degree of it, and the disturbing aspect of it, in terms of what was done with our community, what was done with the transparency activist community, and how the press has been manipulated or sometimes negotiated into lying to the public, preventing the distribution of extremely important information we had about this Peter Thiel guy before he got all this power, about Elon Musk before he got all this power. The extent of it, the depth of it is so bad that I think I might be able to, I've resumed writing again. Finally, the book is out, and I'm in Mexico. I'm kind of safe from some of this stuff. So I hope that, in the months to come, I can maybe get this to get attention by the press because of its importance and ongoing nature, given Peter Thiel has his employee J.D. Vance next in line in the White House. And if that doesn't happen, at the very least, we'll be able to see that there is no red line. We'll be able to see that it doesn't matter what we catch anyone doing and how impactful it is and how many are in the press and will still be in the press in the next few years. This whole situation is going to just proceed and get worse and worse. And that's something people need to know so that they can make an informed decision in the future about how to handle what's to come.
So I haven't gathered or organized it. Admittedly, I just ran out of time in the since you sent a lot of this last night. But I will look to organize what you sent and put some links in the show description so people can follow up, because there's just a lot. I did just want to say, in addition to that, I did also want to say that we were talking before you got here today, that one of the books that I have been just wrapped up listening to recently is this book by Eowyn Higgins. Am I saying that name correctly? Called Owned.
I don't know. I can't say his name either.
But do you know who I'm talking about? Do you know the book?
Yeah. He wrote this book. It's. I haven't read it. Other people I know have. My understanding is that it's useful, but fundamentally incomplete in some ways.
Yeah. So that's what I was just going to say. So the book is called Owned: How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. And it was a fun listen. It was very interesting, but it felt then and definitely now like it was not only leaving things out, but it was telling the story from a very at most left liberal perspective. It wasn't a heavily critical analysis, and it didn't have, if I remember correctly, I don't remember any of these overlaps that you're describing being discussed, certainly not with a lot of substance. So I think it's important that work be done, but that the work you're looking to help expose be done as well, so that a more complete story about the kind of, because like the book, like the Higgins book will raise questions about, well, why do you think people like Glenn Greenwald would have been dragged farther to the right? Why would Matt Taibbi over time go farther to the right? And I think you're adding a very important component to any effort to answer those questions. Speaking of Rumble, do you have any insight into the call-in acquisition by Rumble and the friends of the left that got those deals? The Higgins book talks some about that. And at one point, Call-In reached out to me and us at Black Liberation Media, offering us something like $500 but and I'm forgetting which wing of the ruling elite this was involved with, but it was really just a ploy for, if it wasn't Teal or one of them, to get a foothold into these online spaces and offer up what appeared to be a more open invitation to a broader swath of political voices, but was really ultimately, again, another very right-wing effort. But anyway, do you have any thoughts on or more insight on any of that?
So I don't know a lot about Rumble other than the involvement of its deals, and this is one of the first points of collaboration that were open between him and Greenwald, when Greenwald was finally ready to come out of the closet as having been working on behalf of the people prosecuting me, while he was also championing me as a hero, but studiously refraining from mentioning what we had discovered about his patron and his company and what they were doing. One of the things I just come across recently in looking at something else is that, aside from having produced the leader of the Proud Boys, Vice is also one of their people went on to Rumble as well. Vice is another outlet that has a rather legendary extent of State Department influence. They actually hired a former State Department person as one of their executives a number of years ago. That is something that's kind of demonstrated in, for instance, the article they wrote when Val Brokesmith died. Val Brokesmith was also on the board of DDoS, but was not entirely loyal to them and recorded that long FBI meeting in LA, which is really the only existing that I know of example of an actual FBI meeting with an actual high-level informant collaborator that exists in U.S. history, and it's been published. It's been mentioned in that New York Magazine review by or profile of me by Jacob Silverman, and in my book and a few others, but nowhere else, which is a shame because anyway, when he died, and he had been meeting with Adam Schiff, talking. He'd been investigating Deutsche Bank and Trump. And he'd been investigating Epstein for the New York Times, for David Enrich, helping to find emails. He was working to some degree with another journalist at Miami, the Miami newspaper that originally rebroke the Epstein story back in 2018 or whatever. He was doing a lot of things. I mean, he was a heavy guy. He was a little bit nuts. He was on drugs. He was very much kind of like me. He was an adventurer. He was not as principled, and I think he was more. I mean, he was playing a lot of sides and so forth. Anyway, he was found dead. It was towards the beginning of the Ukraine war. He's Ukrainian by birth. He was found dead the same week that a few other people in Russia were found dead. All fell off things. He fell off something in the U.S. unfortunately, and so you're not supposed to investigate that because that'd be silly. Vice put out a big article about not about hey, this guy was meeting with Congress. He was an FBI asset. He disappeared for a year before reemerging. His wife is still technically missing by the state of California. He was involved in all this heavy stuff. Didn't say anything about that. Just said, hey, there's some conspiracy theories on this right-wing forum somewhere about this Val Brokesmith guy dying. But really, he just fell off something. And they got a quote from this kid Stedman, who was briefly a journalist. He's not anymore. Telling people that he just wants to protect the reputation of his friend, stop looking into his background. He wants his dignity protected. And, so there you have it. That's what Vice does. Vice, I mean, not everyone there, obviously. I used to write for Vice from prison, blah, blah. They will let you write for them if you're not, if you're not too heavy into, the whole looking into things around Vice and the government kind of thing. But it is a lot of people there have taken the handshake. They started the Peace Corps or a State Department grant program. They're the sort of junior CIA kids who run it. Anyway, and again, that just applies across the board. And the more we find of it, it's easier to find these days. Number one, because a lot of us who have been pursued by FBI and contractors, obviously there's a back and forth investigation that we get to do. They slip up, there's leaks, people turn. So we get a lot of, or you can also just go on WikiLeaks and search the name of a reporter and see which intelligence firms he's been dealing with. Or you can look up NPR and see how invested they are in Stratfor, the firm I went to prison over. Was WikiLeaks, the intelligence firm whose presidents had with best friends with Bibi Netanyahu. So we can now kind of paint a larger map of how corrupted, not just the cowardly and incompetent mediocre journalists who come in. They're white girls from Virginia and Connecticut, and they parents have a friend, and they get to be an editor, or whatever, in New York. But I mean, those people are also a problem as well, a huge problem. They're easily manipulated. But just how many are knowingly and demonstrably working against the public? It's just extraordinary. It's not something you can summarize. You really, surely not here. The extent of it is shocking, and it remains shocking the more you look into it. So I think that until that changes, until that is addressed, we're not going to see. It will be very difficult to create any kind of movement that is effective as things continue to deteriorate in the U.S. because those movements will be they will be up against a lot.
So I just was able to get it set up. I again apologize everybody. I didn't have this done beforehand, but I was able to get it set up so I can now pull up more easily to display anything that you sent in our chat last night. Is there anything in particular you would want me to pull up for you to walk us through?
Let's see.
For instance, this group of texts between Weave and Mercedes. which was a little bit difficult for me to read, admittedly. In fact, I'm no longer run by my ego, so I don't mind sharing that. In addition to my bifocals, I had to break out my magnifying glass
I'm sorry to hear that.
to get to some of
In
it.
your defense, that it's the format is difficult, but it's all we have, unfortunately.
But
Basically, it's
yeah.
Long story short, he's threatening her at length. She's explaining, "Hey, here's why I'm saying this stuff about Omidyar, the PayPal 14. This is what we were against. This is what the anonymous activist movement was fighting. The exact people, not just in general, in theory. These individual people and their companies, and these are the same companies that have indicted all of us." Okay, and we was like, "Look, I'm here with them. I'm here with Omidyar. He's very well liked. The PayPal
He's saying
mafia."
up here, I'm meeting with Peter Thiel's right hand this week.
Yeah, and he's talking about he already knows Omidyar and calls him Pierre at this point on a first name basis. He's already hanging out with Greenwald, who has been quietly engaged with them for a couple of years, and he's so here it's laying out the actual situation of what happened, and it also helps to explain a great deal of Greenwald's behavior in the years following the Palantir, Peter Thiel's firm Palantir, and their role in going after him and WikiLeaks and all that. As they said in the documents that were released and that Congress tried to investigate back in 2011, as Aaron Barr wrote in those project slides with Palantir, these professionals, these careerists, they may believe things, but if pushed, they will choose career over cause. And that's exactly what happened to Greenwald, who, and I've said this before, it's been widely speculated, there is increasing indication, especially given other examples, especially given what was published and then removed briefly 2 months ago, that Greenwald is not just getting money off this, but he's blackmailed. Yeah.
I just want to ask. So again, just in terms of what we're seeing here, so again, Mercedes is attempting to do. I'm sorry, she's attempted to do some honest journalism regarding. I'm not entirely what she's.
She's been putting out statements on behalf of the PayPal 14 of these defendants, and the statements are about about Pierre Omidyar, about what's happening to them, and he's saying, look, yes, he totally agrees with your cause. This is what they tell people all the time. But the smart way to do it, he uses, is to play your cards right and get in with the PayPal 14. This is the same talk that's been given to a bunch of people, including Greenwald, and they tried it with me twice. First in 2011, and then 2014 when Tor came by to offer the money, and then also, I guess, in a more indirect way by the head of Distributed General Secrets, Michael Best, when they finally asked me if I'd be willing to work with Stratfor and put the past behind us.
So just quickly, because like this part here where Weave is saying, I'm not expecting you to tell me anything. I'm just saying if you become a PR face for the PayPal 14, disavow the Pierre trash talk. And then he says, and start running a reasonable campaign. I can put my resources insofar as manipulating the press in the billionaires in your favor.
Yep.
So
and he's claiming, and this other one is he's claiming, oh, Pierre didn't order the blockade. He's it's just all this nonsense. He's going through a number of tried and true methods of making the activist or the journalist reconsider their position, talking about intimidating them. She's still under charges, and the plea deal could go away very easily. That was Pierre's show there. In Palantir and Peter Thiel, they're the ones who actually launched the FBI, the full FBI campaign against me, as shown in sealed indictments. They can do that. They can get the FBI to do, for instance, 40 simultaneous heavily armed raids of U.S. households, as they did in January 2010, including Mercedes Hyper's household. They did that. They can do it. They're CIA contractors. They run the data, very influential, and increasingly so as years go on. So she's being threatened into silence, and she's also being offered, a easier path were she to help collude with them to allow the intercept to proceed without enough people knowing what it really was. And it was a method of intercepting leaks which is one of the things that Peter Thiel's Palantir firm was working on in terms of software to detect leak. It was a thing that would publish journalism and publish real journalists, and they would think they were, like me, and they would think that they were, had this great job that was just that. In the meantime, you had a bunch of employees who were, again, already FBI adjacent, some of whom, Richard Esposito, who worked on the files that Reality Winner sent in, thinking she'd be protected. He went on to become the spokesperson for the NYPD. That's an Intercept journalist they hired, and he'd already been working in national security for a while. Just another example there. It just goes on and on and on. So that's what's happening here. And this is one of the reasons, for instance, Greenwald has me blocked on Twitter. Again, I won a National Magazine Award for these people. These people wrote long articles in the Guardian and so forth about what a hero I am. And the reason that they can't acknowledge this, because they can't acknowledge me at this point, because it's just indefensible. There's no explanation for it. There's no getting around it. It's just a matter of them just putting their heads down and going forward and hoping that the press, sort of the failures of the press, will continue to keep this stuff under wraps in terms of the general public, so that it can be done again in different forms as it has been. So again, it always just keeps coming back, from the way I see it, not just the corruptibility of the activist sphere that I was involved in, because there's others, prominent figures who have behaved very poorly behind closed doors. But the press itself, it's just this is what I want to show people. It's not functional. It's actually a threat, an ongoing threat to informed consent, and it's largely responsible for where we're at now, or where you guys are at now, because I live in Mexico, so I'm fine. But yeah.
Okay, so as I'm continuing to learn from your argument, it feels to me like the experience with journalism and media criticism that I had from maybe a generation or two before yours it just seems like a lot of what we were arguing so long ago has just moved into this new digital environment, which again, some of us even predicted. In other words, that for a time there was this argument that the internet was going to level the playing field. It was going to allow for us to break away from the dominance of the billionaire-funded mainstream press. We were going to have all these alternatives, from music to journalism, and it was going to again level the playing field and revolutionize our communication and media environment. But as folks were paying attention, we were and more senior and better scholars than me for sure were pointing out that the new digital internet space was quickly replicating and even intensifying or worsening existing problems with influence, ability to manipulate, and a handful of ruling elite owning most of the dominant spaces. So as you're talking about the Intercept, it feels like, because the Intercept again was introduced to us as the alternative, the new space, the free, the place where you're going to get all the reveals and the whistleblowing and all of that. And yet again, we find ourselves in a situation where billionaires, intelligence, policing, surveillance, ad revenue all still dominates the form of journalism that we end up getting as consumers or audience. And those old problems have just replicated, where the Intercept ends up being just like the New York Times or the Washington Post would have been in generations past. That is, something seemingly liberal, something seeming to offer quality professional journalism, but is ultimately playing a role for the intelligence, military, surveillance state in new form. Am I following you in that?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely correct. Could you pull up the picture of the chat with Michael Lee, where he's saying that he's on the board of DDoS. He's also the security guy for Intercept. This is a couple of years ago, and he's telling me that hey, if you show an actual document showing that Emma Best, which is what Michael Best goes by, but it's not actually trans, as I've said before. None of them are. They all became trans in about 2017, including my ex-girlfriend Annalise Burkhart, who's a-binary now. I can assure you, she was not an a-binary in my experience. This is part of to provide cover within the leftist spaces. Anyway, he's saying if you showed me like I had said like, hey, how about a court doc? No, that's the other one. That's where he's pretending not to understand the last show we did on this.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
There's another one up there. It's next to the court doc. It's next to the court document where Best is changing their name to another male name on the Anyway, so he Michael. Here, I'll let me put in the chat. Here we go. Copy image. Boom, boom, boom. Here it is. Put it in a chat. Can I do that? I don't know if I can chat.
You can put it in the private chat, and I can pull it up.
There we go.
I found it even.
Right, so that's. I cannot paste picture. I can't paste the pictures here. So scroll up to.
Was it before what I was looking at there a second ago?
It was. It's right before that. Yeah, it's right up there. So the one you just posted, it's above my little block of text. There's two images. The one on the left is Michael Lee saying that he would absolutely stop denying publicly my evidence about Michael Best if I were to show him a court document in which Michael Best is himself saying, I work in the national security sector as counterintelligence. The next one image next to that is that exact thing that I gave him.
All right. So this one, you're talking about this one here?
Well, is what I'm saying. Upon discovering Kurt's actual past, that's what I'm writing above it. And there's two images. There you go. That's it. Again, this is a guy running security for what is supposedly the greatest threat to the national security thing. Whistleblowers going in, leakers, people visiting. They got to be safe from like FBI assets who specifically go after leakers and activists. They got to be safe from intelligence contractors, from Israeli intelligence firms. Got to be safe from people who are blackmailed because they had a child porn server. Here he is saying he's on the board of DOS. I've never heard anything about Emma being in intelligence. Now the picture next to it is the explosive revelations, as Micah puts it. That's them changing their name. There's more of it. It was put out a month prior by a Russian intelligence cutout called the Gray Zone. And again, that's not all of it. I mean, there's below Michael Best went on a show that I also go on, a radio show, talking about their intelligence background in 2016, talking about their adventures in intelligence. I sent that link to them more recently. Here's a picture. If you scroll down a little bit further from there, on the left, you'll see Kurtaner going after the Jews. Then on the right, you'll see Michael Best. You'll see the LinkedIn profile. We should put that up real quick. I just want people to see this person.
Wait. Which?
So just scroll down a little from those two. Scroll down a little bit from those two we just posted.
Yeah.
You'll see a bunch of more images. One is a white image with black text.
Says Michael Best on it.
Yeah, that's it. Put that one up, please.
All right, let's see. All right, this one. Yep. This one here.
There we go. So that is the left-leaning, activist leader of Distributed Denial of Secrets. We'll show the other one in a second. He's a real prize. Who worked for Wikistrat, the Israeli intelligence firm, worked for the CIA, worked at the U.S. Army. It just goes on and on. We've got the Social Security number. We've got all the data now. It took a long time. We have our own. We're pretty good at this too. I mean, I didn't go to the Army or anything, but boy howdy, I sure dealt with a lot of these people. So that's it. And again, these are the guys behind this effort a couple of years ago to relaunch a combined anonymous and Black Lives Matter group for Black people to sign up to, so that they could get back, under the right direction of the U.S. military, which is their friend. If you scroll down a little bit more, I want to show the people the other co-founder.
Oh, not this one here. Okay. Hold on.
I want people to see this guy's face. This is very important. This is. There's only so much I can say, but
you're talking about Thomas White.
Yeah. Just scroll down the lower one, the lower picture. I want to see the whole thing. There he is. This is an English guy, number one. And that, for me, that's enough. Number two, he's a guy who calls himself Colthu, which is typical hacker bullshit.
Hold
Again,
on, I don't need to have
a professional scumbag. who was convicted of running child abuse image networks. Yes, Ray Zone's a Russian cutout. It's got. I mean, it's what they use when their hackers go after, for instance, MI5 journalists in the UK who are pretending to be journalists, or when they go after groups in the US that they think that are helping NATO propaganda, by Ukraine and so forth. So, oftentimes, as is the case throughout history, the Russians and us will have the same enemy. I don't like working with Russians, and I don't. I don't like Russians in general. I don't like Russia. But
really,
they put the job done. I mean, in World War II, they helped get the job done. Here, they're getting the job done a little bit. We don't have much in common, except for we don't want child molesting people to be running our activist organizations. We don't want white supremacists and Nazis running them. Although I think Russia did like some of the Nazis getting in power here recently, because that did help kind of break things down. But, so it's complicated. Anyway, this is not your friend. If you're a black man, he's not your friend. Even if you're a white man, he's not your friend. You can tell from his face. Anyway, and Muslim background. This is a nasty little football hooligan motherfucker hacker. This is the guy that was helping to help to seize control of the whole transparency movement, the anonymous thing, which has been run by the Fed since they turned our main hacker Sabu back in 2011. Anyway,
but he hosted. It said he hosted and released the files from the hacked Fraternal Order Police. That's he
did, and they also did something called Blue Leaks. But the thing is, so that they did that, and that helps to establish credibility. The thing is, there's never anything in them that comes up. They don't cover it. It doesn't. Nothing happens. But they point to it regularly, saying, "Look, we're legit. We went after the police." Again, remember in 2012, the Stratfor hack, the hack that released all the emails from Stratfor, the intelligence contractor, was overseen by the FBI via Sabu, as they admitted to and bragged about later on. They do this. There's a reason to do it. And obviously, so there's always a couple of layers you have to look at to determine if someone is actually an anti-government activist, or if they are just doing exactly what an infiltrator has to do. And of course, it takes work that journalists don't like to do. It takes a little bit of familiarity with the ecosystem, which takes some time to acquire and is not easy to live through, not easy to survive. But it can be done. There is a bit of a science to this kind of journalism, and it is done. The problem is there's just so many. Again, there's so many careerists in place at these organizations that are supposedly occupying the space that needs to be occupied, like the Freedom of Press Foundation. They do protect Thiel's interests, and this goes on and on and on. So, I don't have any solutions to any of this, by the way. I'm just telling you just more about how terrible it is. I mean, there are theoretically solutions, but, that's really up to the American people, to decide if, what their red line is and how much more of this they want to take. I assume it's going to keep going, because I don't see a single indication that this is going to end well. Having said that, I remember back in 2020, I did see a lot of very heavily armed black groups going out confronting the police during beyond with automatic rifles and all that. I'm glad to know that exists, because a lot of the whites have rifles too. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But
yeah, I don't know.
Everything would go down a lot easier if we could just get the press cleaned up. Is all I'm saying.
No, right on. Well, look, I have some I just have some biases to check out in terms of your comments, blanket comments about Russians and things like that. But but in general, no, I agree with what you're saying, and I agree at least with the points, your broader points about what looks like it is going to be some alternative or something different is leading us right back. Because again, when I'm looking at the, I'm scrolling over the Intercept's web, front page, and it presents itself as maybe progressive, left liberal, thoughtful, responsible journalism that offers up a critique of what's going on in the world that might be of value. I've read a few things from them that have been of value. But again, I could say the same thing over the years about the New York Times and the Washington
Yeah,
Post.
no, exactly. I mean, exactly. It's not. I mean,
Yeah.
again, these just to clarify. I mean, I used to go to Russia Today all the time, and the reason was because that was the only place, one of the few places that could regularly cover when Aaron Swartz was indicted and talk about that and why it was wrong. They would have me on when Michael Hastings went to Afghanistan and had General McChrystal kicked out, and then went back again and exposed the psyops campaign being used by the Army against visiting senators to continue the funding for the war. I go to Russia Today to talk about that. When Michael Hastings blew up in his car in LA in 2013, I couldn't go on because I was under a gag order in prison. When Aaron Swartz killed himself, couldn't go on and talk about that. But when I got out, resumed to go on Russia Today to talk about the various things that I can't talk about in the CIA controlled media. So they're all useful for different things. I mean, New York Times publishes actual articles. Sometimes it takes a while, and there's some resistance internally, and contributors have to threaten to go write a book about it before the editors will agree, which is what happened in the original early on in 2004 or so. The revelations about the NSA mass data collection stuff. That's what happened with that. The guy had to threaten his way onto the front page after several years. It's capture and kill is a term that's often used in the press for when when a story is it is deemed opposed to the interests of board members and the intelligence community, cutouts and so forth. The LA Times is now owned by this other intelligence billionaire who loves Trump. They killed stories on Val Broeksmith's death. They had a reporter come talk to me and to Rocco Castoro, former executive editor of Vice, who resigned because he figured out what was going on there, asking about what was Val working on before he died. Talked to us a lot. Never published a thing. That's how that works. The New York Magazine profile that Jacob Silverman I keep mentioning wrote, that covers a bit of this stuff and Val and his death and the FBI meeting. It was originally going to be in a couple of other outlets, and because the editors loved the story, and then was mysteriously stopped, and so we had to find one that wouldn't do that. That's what we're up against, and by which I mean that's what the public is up against, because ultimately, again, the public has to get this knowledge. Much of the press is working against you on that. That is such a fundamental problem that again arises. It is beyond all else. It is fundamental to all other solutions. Until this is fixed, until we have a press that it does not collude on an ongoing basis with these kinds of intelligence contractors, people who have been blackmailed by the FBI because of their child porn addictions, including ABC News producers. I sent you the picture of him, the guy who hung out with the operative Cassandra Fairbanks. He was a Homeland Security official, became an ABC News producer. A few years ago, it was publicized that he had been raided by the FBI over child pornography. These people are blackmailed. They're easily blackmailed. They're deployed against the public, and it's extensive. And it's very much like the Epstein network. It works in very much the same way. It's much the same ends. It's done because it works. It's the easiest thing in the world to do, especially when you have hackers and these kids who have grown up with these chants where child pornography is normalized and so forth. It becomes entirely, there's no reason for them not to use that as a means of blackmail, discrediting, taking control of people, and getting more people into this kind of thing. It's been going on for quite a while. We see it just at DDoS, just at the several people at DDoS, including the co-founder, who were distributing child pornography before going into the left-wing activism business, and coincidentally trying to get you fired and trying to get me wiped off the map again. So that's why we don't have whistleblowers. That's why we don't have leakers anymore. That's why the whole phase from 15 years ago, where we were having that, where we had actual leaks from the military, actual leaks from the CIA, hacks, aggressive investigations of Palantir, Stratford, the FBI, GCHQ, Metropolitan Police. Those don't happen anymore because they've gotten so good, not just at stopping those hacks and leaks, but at making sure they don't matter, making sure that when they come out, there'll be nowhere for them to go to. People involved will be discredited by child pornography wielding operatives. That the Atlantic will publish articles about how the child pornography distributor is the hero, as Dale Barron did in the Atlantic for Aubrey Cottle, the CSIS guy also involved in distributing national secrets. And that's okay. And even when we catch them in the act, it takes a long time, and people die in the meantime, and their deaths are gone uninvestigated, like Val Brooksmith and Kevin Gallagher and the ones before that. There's just still nowhere to go with that, and so that's the message here. That will have to be addressed at some point. That's got to be figured out.
Yeah, I mean, you raised a good point that you're right. There has been all we've really heard about WikiLeaks over the last decade plus has been Assange's incarceration and trial, and not the platform as a resource for more reveals, leaks, whistleblowing, etc. And there has been, yeah, one might have thought that the more was on its way, but you're right, we haven't gotten it. So in the as we start to have to unfortunately wrap up for today, where you were talking about regrouping for your own writing and perhaps journalism covering some of this. What is that looking like? Where does that?
So I would love to say. So I've got something coming out fairly soon. I would love to say where it is, but for the reasons described above, I can't in advance anymore say that, because what happened. I mean, you've seen the rape accusations that the same Laura Horn was sending around to people she didn't realize rape. So it's easier if I don't, but that makes it difficult for me to reach people, which is part of the point. But when it does come out, when these my new articles do come out in these outlets, I will, I'll let you know. But anyway, so
in the interim, I'm definitely happy to schedule. I mean, again, I'm having to head towards a close for today, but I mean, you're always, we can always set up another time for you to come back. It's not entirely that deep for that part. Oh, I thought I saw a question there. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up or add to, or are there any other questions? Yeah, Yipper, we're gonna table that for when Barrett comes back, because it just seemed like there wasn't enough time to cover this and that story, which was the original intent. So I've already changed the title of this stream and the thumbnail to reflect this discussion. We will. I'm happy to have you come back to talk about the Dallas situation at some point, to talk more about this. We can set up as many discussions as necessary, at least in between my teaching schedule during the semester and whatever else you have going on.
I should clarify, people in the comments, what the stuff we're talking about Dallas. I don't know anything about what happened in the ICE shooting. What we're going to discuss is how Dallas, what we know about how Dallas has a novel, a uniquely a unique gift for the media and police coming together to kill a narrative, and so such that. Now, a week ago, I thought maybe the ICE shooting in Dallas was going to be a big thing. It's kind of gone away. But I was going to talk about the Botham Jean shooting by the white police officer Amber Geiger, who had racist messages all over Pinterest and who was protected by the press. That's why we're going to do that. I don't know what's going on with the ICE thing, although it doesn't look. It looks a little bit sus, given the engravings on the ammunition everyone's doing these days. I was growing up, when people didn't engrave their philosophies on their evidence, or that discredited their philosophies. It was a simpler time back then. Anyway, so I don't know follow some of these parapolitics people on Twitter, Boltzmann. I retweet them on my Twitter page, on Project PM. PROJPM. Those guys are they're very good at this stuff, and they have access to a lot of background history documents that I don't. So on a lot of these deep events, as they're called, where an assassination occurs, but maybe it didn't, that kind of thing, and the press says, "Oh, well, that happened." Those guys they generally have the goods, and so that's who I follow. That's who a lot of the better journalists actually follow, although they don't want to talk about it publicly. But that's those are the people to go to. I don't know. I just know about Dallas's how Dallas functions, and it's pretty bad. So that was all that was. We can talk about that sometime.
Yeah, definitely. What else? What else? Yeah, were there any other questions from the chat? We can get to it for a couple minutes here. And yeah, you were talking about the traffic down there in Mexico. I got to deal with the never ending lawn care out here in these tree lined streets. It's just constant noise pollution from all the grooming of every blade of grass. It's
That shit
super
needs to be
irritating.
stopped at
I
some point.
agree.
That needs to be used. I mean, when the military occupation does occur, and it will, there are going to be some benefits. You know, that we can finally, as a society, finally kind of just come together and stop some shit that needs to be stopped, and that's going to be the first thing I think.
There you go. That if we can wrap on that.
I should have joined the little teal team. I should have, you know, I could have been working from the inside to make sure it was, you know, I could have done that whole thing, you know, but I didn't.
Well,
so, you know,
speaking of which, that is one thing I did want to quickly follow up on. When Weave is telling Mercedes that he would be able to manipulate billionaires and the press to get, you know, marshal all these resources. Could you what does he mean? How does that actually function?
He's just trying one of a number of different arguments that are used to make someone do something that is morally wrong. And one of them is that the best way to achieve your goals is to work with me because I'm working with these billionaires. He wasn't actually going to be able to manipulate Pierre Omidyar and Peter Thiel, maybe Grimwald perhaps, but not them, or Musk. He's just telling. I mean, that's stuff that they're telling him to tell Mercedes. This is how this works. I mean, they gave him a number of. I mean, but by this point, Weave is pretty conversant in manipulation tactics that are used within this space. But these guys, you know, are actual intelligence contractors who have brought to the top of their game. They're definitely giving him some guidelines on here's some things to try. I mean, Alex Karp, president of Palantir, reached out to me a few weeks after the hack, the big Team Themis thing, and Congress investigating, using an unusual means of communication so that I couldn't record it, or that it wouldn't matter if I recorded it. We couldn't prove it was him. Making me very much the same offer, saying Tunisia, we can help with Tunisia. You know, we're Palantir, we're doing great things. You guys are helping with Tunisia and the Arab Spring. We can help with that. Went on about 20 minutes again. So and had the same arguments provided, different directions. Kim.com when I got out of prison. You know, Assange, Assange's friends, other people who took the handshake are now free and no longer pursued by the police. I've heard these arguments a lot of times from people who believe them, people who don't believe them. Here, this argument is great because Weave is using a lot of them. He's using a whole bunch of these are the ways in which activists who started out decent, moral, wanting to do something, maybe have some flaws personality-wise, maybe you have some issues or whatever. This is how they're broken down and brought into the opposition, and it's done regularly. And the tough part about it is that, you know, it's tough being the watchdog for that, because then you're up against not just the people who are explicitly enemies, but people who are supposedly also, like yourself, definitely on the level activists willing to take the fight to the enemy and so forth. People who've never done jail time, but they're or who did briefly, and then got out. They occupy a lot of space here, so it's tough to go up against all of that. Having said that, I don't like them, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Hey, when in doubt, hate it out. That's the way I think.
Those are great words. I believe Martin Luther King said that at some point in his great speech.
The Dr. King lost tapes. That's what he was saying. You know,
he said, "Fuck those punk ass bitches up, left and right, all day long, 24/7, and don't let up until they're down. You're on top of their neck."
You know, actually, if you believe the Taylor Branch and other histories of Dr. King, it's not that far fetched that's how he would have sounded off the record. But you know, but listen, look, Barrett, I appreciate your efforts here. Again, I apologize for having to cut it relatively short, and we'll again, you know, happily find time for us to have more of these discussions. I put the link to your Twitter handle, your Twitter account in the show description so folks can follow and stay abreast of your announcements and anything like that. But yeah, anything else you wanted to that I didn't anything else before we wrap?
Kill the Boer. Kill the Boer. Kill the Boer. There's one of them in particular. Anyway.
Well, all right. So we're gonna we want to keep the access to the platform. So we'll stop it there. But
it's an old phrase.
It's an old phrase, an old song.
It's an old AMC slogan. Come on.
The Azanian liberation struggle, and certainly not anything we would advocate here on this show or this platform. It's just a reference to some history.
That fight is over.
That fight is over. We are taking it to the electoral.
I was saying my heart goes out to you is what I was saying.
Of course.
My heart goes out to all of you.
We're doing above board, electoral party, election, nonprofit, all that academic, professional journalism work. So we're staying, above the fray. But anyway, listen, Barrett, thank you very much. Again, folks, please follow his work. Please get the book, My Glorious Defeats. It's really a fantastic read, and it's not even bad to listen to and hear Barrett read his book if you get the Audible version. So, but Barrett, thank you very much, and we'll again, peace to you, because I know you're out there fighting for it, like Fred Hampton would say, and I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Me too.
Right on. All right, everybody, please do all the things, like, share, subscribe, join the Patreon, especially after a discussion like this. It's probably a good idea to sign up for the Patreon just in case. And thanks for joining us today and for sticking through the uneven beginning of the program. And ring the bell and all the other thing. Like, share, subscribe, put this in your socials. I will see you again Saturday with Saturdays with Renee over there on Black Liberation Media, and then for Saturday Night Live this week on Black Liberation Media. Please also go back and check all the stuff over here, including the most recent indirect exchange with Killer Mike and Shannon Sharp. By the way, I didn't put this in that video that I did for that real quick today, but the clip if you watch it, the clip I played from their show, I didn't edit outside of excerpting that clip. I'm wondering, did they have an edit that would have, for Shannon, filled in the gap? Because it kind of jumps from something Mike is saying to them clearly hating on me, with Shannon laughing kind of knowingly. And I'm wondering, was that an edit? So that Mike could say off air, it's this dude, Jared Ball, and his whack ass book, and and I'm hating it. I don't want to say his name on camera. Am I tripping on that? Maybe, I might have to double check, let me know if you and we could revisit this Saturday night for sure. Because Saturday during the day with Renee, we got a much more important discussion to have. Don't want to, we'll save the silliness for the silly time. And then, of course, also make sure you're in the audience if you can tomorrow morning for the Remix Morning Show, and all weekday mornings, at least Tuesday through Friday for that. And all the other stuff. All right. Thank you all again. Thanks again to Barrett. Peace to everybody. Only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And I will see you next time here with more.
And what did you sacrifice? Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, that set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.